Hey friend, today I wanted to talk again about communication in marriage. I don't think it can be talked about enough. When you hear about or read about statistics regarding reasons for divorce, of course, many will list irreconcilable differences, but underneath that, I think if you talk to the people who were in the marriage, probably the number one issue you hear from couples who are not getting along well to the point that they decide to go their separate ways is a lack of good communication. And that can cause, lack of good communication can cause stress, divisiveness, hurt feelings, a sense of loneliness, isolation, anger, a feeling of not being loved, a whole host of issues. So it's really critical to kind of work on communication every day. We talk to couples almost every day, various couples, about the communication issue. And I found this article. I read a lot, many publications and things. I'll link this below. But this article was written in 2014, but it's still very relevant for today because we all have to communicate with each other. And so I just thought it was a good article to review about what the secret to good communication in marriage is. And of course, I won't read the whole article, but it says the secret to good communication in marriage is respect. When two spouses respect one another, they learn to communicate. It may not be easy. It always takes time, but when respect is present, communication skills grow. Miscommunication is not necessarily a lack of respect, but an unwillingness to learn good communication is always a lack of respect. Because I respect my wife, I will learn to communicate with her. Consider the origin of the word respect. It means to look back or look upon. To give someone respect is to give them proper attention. Notice it is attention which is given, not gained. When relationships begin, our attention is often gained. Attractiveness gains our attention. But in marriage, attention is to be given. Part of saying I do is vowing to give our attention to our spouse. They do not have to gain our attention because we will give them our attention. When a relationship has chronic communication problems, the problem is an absence of respect. They are not giving proper attention to their spouse. Poor communication is a symptom of the disease of disrespect. And this is written by Pastor Kevin Thompson, so he's writing from the perspective of a husband. And he goes on to say further, consider, if I respect my wife, I will want to know her, want to be known by her, be willing to listen, give her the attention necessary to communicate to me, refuse to make any assumptions regarding her opinions or ideas, not belittle her, not caricature her, for example, to say all women are emotional. Understand that she is a complex person whom I do not fully know. Speak to her and not at her. Listen when spoken to. Give her ample time for communication to take place. Clearly show my desire for her to communicate with me and reveal my heart to her. While respect is an internal feeling of admiration, it expresses itself through action. A person can't claim to respect their spouse if their actions do not clearly reveal that respect. Yet acting in a respectful way is the best way to grow feelings of respect. And then the last part that I'll read. Having a temporary disagreement or miscommunication is not evidence of an absence of respect. It is evidence of two different people trying to understand one another. However, if there is a pattern which proves communication is difficult regarding an issue, the root problem is likely a lack of respect. And I will say, I wholeheartedly agree with the sentiment of the article. I would say earlier in our marriage, when Michael and I were younger in our 20s, I would say we struggled with respecting one another. We came into the marriage kind of wanting the other person to be different. I think a lot of people do that. If that's not your story, then, kudos to you. But for us, we were immature, and like I said, we wanted each other to be the ideal that we had in our head about what we would grow into. Of course, we loved each other when we got married. We liked each other. We were best friends when we got married. But of course, when you live in close proximity with someone, every single day you live with them, your thoughts and feelings and opinions will change as you see people kind of operate. And then you're like, I don't like that habit. I don't like this. I don't like that. And oftentimes we get stuck in the daily routines and focusing on the things that we don't like, to the point that we lose sight of the bigger picture of marriage, which is ultimately to reflect God's glory back to the world. That's the whole point of marriage. But when we're kind of in the trenches, it's so easy to focus on the things that affect us individually. And it is sadly a little too easy for some of us to fall into the trap of being disrespectful towards our spouse. We kind of sometimes I'll just speak for myself. Earlier in our marriage, I thought that, well, I didn't think it was disrespect. Looking back on it, I definitely can now understand that it was disrespectful. But back then, I was just like, I just want things to be done the right way. And of course, what was the right way? It was my way, of course. It was my way or the highway. But and I see that in a lot of ladies that I talk to, and obviously that is the wrong way to look at it, because each person has their own, again, ideals, ideas, and opinions that they bring into the marriage. Each one has a right to be heard, and you can work together and compromise to create what each person wants to see in terms of kind of a happy or joy-filled, not happy, but a joy-filled, peaceful marriage. And I say not happy because happiness really shouldn't be the ideal, because happiness is on you as an individual. You have to make yourself happy. It's not your spouse's job to make you happy, and it's not even the role of the marriage. You can certainly be happy in the marriage, but that's not the goal of the marriage. Nowhere in the Bible will you see that marriage was created to make you happy. But you can be joy-filled, and you can have peace and a supportive environment within marriage by making sure that your communication skills are on par. And one way that I like to help people improve communication, Kevin's article kind of touched on it, but when you're talking to your spouse, the act of active listening cannot be overstated, meaning that you give your full time and attention to your spouse, whether it's the husband listening to the wife or the wife listening to the husband. And typically it's going to be more important for the husband to be more present for the spouse, because women are the more emotional beings compared to the men. And so it's going to probably be a little bit of a struggle, perhaps, typically, for the husband to give the wife the attention that she needs in order to kind of fully express what it is that she's feeling. And even if you don't think what their sort of concerns are that big of a deal, the fact that they are a big deal to the spouse should then make them a big enough deal to you, to where you can help figure out a way to work out whatever those differences are. And I would encourage you to read this whole article. I will link it in the box below. But I do think that part of a big reason for miscommunication is a lack of respect. And I'm just curious as to what you might think about that. Have you, when you have disagreements with your spouse and they kind of go on and on, have you ever thought about it in those terms? Like, do you feel disrespected? Because I have to say, looking back on when we were acting that way, I will say I did feel disrespected, and then doing soul searching for myself, realized that I was disrespectful towards Michael as well. Ultimately, how we worked it out was through a whole lot of prayer and um, talking to couples who had been married longer than we had. Thankfully, at our church, we had a very active marriage ministry, and that was very helpful to kind of talk to other people and understand that this is a common issue for many couples, and you're not alone out there. But it is very important to improve your communication skills every single day. Don't let things fester. You want to kind of stay on top of what an issue is, so you're not always having to look back. You're talking about stuff that happened weeks, months, years ago. And at some point, when you're steadily bringing this old baggage and these topics up, it just kind of feels very heavy to the person, to your spouse. It just feels like it's just a litany of complaints rather than focusing on the solution. So one way to work on and improve communication right now is to just stay current. You could decide today to say, clean slate, what happened prior to today, it's done, and over with, depending on what it is. I know that might not be practical depending on whatever issues you may have been dealing with, but for us, they were pretty trivial. I've talked about this in other videos, but I used to complain about trivial things. I wanted Michael to want to take the trash out rather than me saying, the trash is full, can you please take it out? To me, that was just, it just would grate on my nerves, because I'm like, don't you see that full trash can right there? Why do I have to point it out? And it was funny, actually. I was talking to a friend's husband at a reception. We were all at a table together. We were just talking about how men and women operate. And I was like, why do y'all do that? Why will you walk past a full trash can and not take the trash out? He was like, because I ain't thinking about the trash. He said, I'm not thinking about the trash. Yes, the trash is there, but I don't see it because my mind is on something else. And it's not personal. I'm just not thinking about it. And then I was like, wow, okay. So I have been making it personal, the fact that Michael didn't voluntarily take the trash out, because I'm assuming that he saw the full trash can, but in fact, he probably, like my friend's husband said, didn't even consider the trash. He wasn't thinking about the trash. And so, and even if I did have to ask him to take the trash out, so, like, was it hurting me? It was hurting my pride, but in a literal sense, was it causing me pain? No, I was just being petty. So, anyway, that's how we got over it. We talked to people. We decided to squash our differences, because we just wanted peace in our home. And then we worked on our active listening skills. You have to be present. You can't be scrolling on your phone or watching TV or doing something else. You need to be, and if you don't want to look at each other, depending on how you're feeling, turn the lights out and talk in the dark. However you need to work it out. But as I said in the beginning, good communication in marriage is key. It is the major key to a healthy, long-lasting, joyful marriage that will grow into, a 60-plus year marriage, which is doable. You can do it, but you have to be willing to make some changes and kind of mature in many ways. So Let me know what you think. Again, I would love to know if you have had communication issues. If so, how did you handle them? If you're still having trouble, what are some ways you're willing to make the necessary changes to improve communication in your marriage? I'd love to hear what you think. Let's talk about it below in the comments. So that is all for now. Thank you for watching, and be blessed, and I will see you next time.